101.1 FM. He's Bob Pollock from the Extension Service. You can give Bob a call right now at 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. You got something out there in the yard, you don't recognize it? Neither does Bob. Give him a call, and he'll help you out and see what we can do for your lawns and gardens and trees and things. Oh, by the way, happy birthday today to Lois Blazovich from Clymer, from her husband Gary, and from all of us here at 1160 WCCS, and from Bob Pollock, too.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, there you go, Lois. So what's going on?
It's a lovely spring day, shaping up to be, at least.
It is. It is. One of the things that I've noted is that the soil is still moist, almost too wet to work a little bit in the gardens right now. At least around my place, they are.
Yeah, depending on where you are and the type of soil you have, definitely.
Yeah,
we had a little bit of moisture this week to dampen things down, but.
And, you know, I was looking at the weather stats that came in about the amount of snowfall we had this year as compared to last year, and we had about 20 inches more this year than last.
Doesn't seem like it.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's still nothing like it was 2 years ago, but still, the ground seems to be holding on to that moisture. It's not been as sunny this spring.
Yeah, well, and we've gotten rain. We haven't gotten a snowpack, but we had a little bit more, of course, as you said, but we've had rains, too, to keep things, keep that moisture flowing. Mm-hmm. And if we're, according to the crop report, last week at this time, we were almost about a half an inch short or behind on rainfall.
Okay.
And now we're almost half an inch ahead.
Okay.
So we made up our little deficit there in a week.
It's been wet enough. So we're basically right on track.
We're right on track, a little bit ahead. As they count the growing degree days. Mm-hmm. Those are either days they have a base temperature that they use, so depending on the plants and what you're trying to keep track of, it might be a base of 40 degrees Fahrenheit, or it might be 50 degrees Fahrenheit. For more things, we use that 50 degree temperature. But so they'll take the high for the day plus the low for the day, divide that by 2, and then if your base is 50, take that number minus 50. And anything in the positive adds to your growing degree days.
Okay.
So those will accumulate through the season then. So it's just a way to track those temperatures, and it's more closely related to when crops are going to start to, when things leaf out in the spring and or plants flower, they can base that off of those, and timing of pests as well, because they've charted over time many different insects especially that they'll use those base temperatures, and a certain range of growing degree days are when different stages of those insects. So the eggs might hatch between 50 and 90 growing degree days. So whenever those have accumulated or you get into that range, then that helps you decide when that you should be tracking those or looking for those or looking for activity. So if the eggs are supposed to hatch at around 50 growing degree days, then when we're approaching that, then you start to scout for that, to look for that, whatever that insect is, and see if those eggs have hatched and if there's insect activity, and then we can start to, how many are there? Or maybe there's none there. And then you can go down the decision tree of whether you need to do something or not do something.
All right, let's get to the phone lines. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bob, I had called you last year about my azalea bush, and something was eating it, and it was turning brown, and we sprayed it, and it looks like it's coming back pretty good this year. It looks pretty green. Now, do you think it would be a good idea to spray it again this year, or is not so much chance that I'll have the same problem this year?
Preemptive spraying.
Now, do you recall what we decided that pest was, or that problem was?
It was something that was laying the egg.
So it was okay. So on azalea, it was. So we can scout for that. We can look on the plant and help us determine whether we need to do anything this year.
Okay.
And it's probably the azalea lace bug would be the insect, and the adults, they hang out on the undersides of the foliage. So as those new leaves come out, you can start and turn the turn a branch over so you can look at the underside of the leaves and see if there's any activity on there. And usually what we see, there'll be black, tiny little tar spots,
Right.
which are really excrement from the insect. It's a sucking insect, so it's going to stick its mouth parts in, remove plant sap, and then when it processes that through its body, then it leaves these little black tar spots. So that helps identify what the pest is that we're working with. So when you see those, so keep looking for that. You'll also see those insects on the undersides of the leaves moving around, and they almost look like a figure eight.
Yeah, wee little.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would keep monitoring the plant, and if it looks like there's enough there, if you're getting 2 or 3 or 4 on a plant, then at that point in time you can treat those.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Thank you. It is Indiana in the morning. That's interesting because, some people might say, I'm just going to get out there and I'm going to throw the chem lab at it because I don't want to have to deal with it, and I'm not that observant.
Right.
But if you don't need to, you probably shouldn't.
No. Now, granted, there are some pests that are almost like magnets to certain plants. So that azalea,
it lures them in.
Yes. They're very attracted. Those insects are very attracted to that particular plant. So that azalea lace bug is naturally attracted to the azalea. So there's pretty common chance that you could have that problem. Okay. And so what happens is normally we don't notice it until the plant doesn't look the right color. So that's feeding on there. It's removing the plant sap as well as the chlorophyll. Chlorophyll gives those leaves its green color, so that color fades, and they become a dull, almost lime green color. And then you start to know, that doesn't look quite right. And then you look closer.
Something that occurs to me because we got a release from the Phipps Conservatory about that corpse plant.
Yes.
Smells like rotting flesh,
yeah.
Which it only blooms once a year, and it's decided that it's going to be now, and it only blooms for a day or so or something like that. And the reason it smells the way that it does, like dead rotting flesh, is because it wants to attract in certain insects that are going to pollinate it that would say, hey, that smells great.
Yes.
Like
rotting, decaying material.
Yeah, but the broader issue then is how do plants attract in certain bugs? Are the bugs out there just flying around saying, do I smell anything good? And then they just move on to the next neighborhood, or what? How do plants go about sending out their signals to the bugs that I need you here?
Yeah, and it's all chemically related. So over time, as those plants have developed and evolved, and they create advantageous attractions. So in that case, to that plant, it needs those insects to pollinate it so that it can continue its life cycle. In other cases, there's chemicals given off that attract insects that are going to feed on it or cause that plant to die. So in that case, it's beneficial to the insect and not beneficial to the plant. But there's all kind of chemical scents given off, and so an example in an orchard is that there are insects that they have identified the pheromones, the attractants, what attracts that insect to that plant. So they've identified that chemical material, as well as they'll ID the structure and chemical makeup of the insects, so male and female insects. And so they can use what we call mating disruption. So they actually have created that chemical scent, and they can put it in they have it in a twist tie now. They used to put it in packets, and it was hard to put packets up in the tree. Now it's it's in a twisty tie, and you can just twist it around the branch and keep moving, because you have to put a certain number of those in an acre of orchard, and then it attracts and confuses the male moths, and it disrupts their activity, and so it's mimicking that scent of the female, and so they're attracted to that, and it confuses them, and it ends up that they're not able to mate, which then the population can't continue. So that's now a way that on larger blocks of orchard, you can actually use that mating disruption technique instead of having to spray to kill that insect. So it's amazing.
Sex lives of moths was just not a topic I thought we would get into today, but we did.
So we have all these chemists and everybody in the lab that are able to break down this insect or this plant material and run the DNA and all that and figure out these chemical structures that these plants and insects use to be attracted to one another or maybe be repelled, because that's a whole thing too. There are weeds that grow that will give off chemicals. Say the walnut tree has juglans in its root system.
Juglans?
And juglans is the chemical name of this material that's given off, and it actually keeps many plants from growing. And the standard one that we always use is never plant a tomato plant near a walnut tree because it'll die. Because that chemical, the tomato.
One little tomato plant killed a whole walnut tree.
Yeah, so don't put your garden near any.
Well, this has been a
grove.
fascinating visit this morning with Bob Pollock as we've been talking about. It is the prom season after all. I don't know who's going to the moth prom.
How did we get to that? Yeah.
But we managed to do it. Thank you, sir, for coming in this morning.
You are welcome.
That. It's Indiana in the Morning, presented as always by First Commonwealth Bank here on AM 1160 WCCS and 101.1